Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 7, Episode 11 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, scheduled to come out on September 9th, 2024. And today we're going to do the Founders Cherry Solstice. Well, first of all, I should say we're back from a long hiatus, about 3 months, and ready to start doing everything again that we do on here. So we're going to do Founders Limited Edition Cherry Solstice Barrel Aged Cherry Ale. It is a bourbon barrel aged cherry ale bursting with tart cherry flavor after spending over a year in bourbon barrels. Notes of oak and vanilla wrap around the cherries for a subtly sweet but balanced treat. A bold but refreshing twist to the summer fruit beers you're used to sipping. And this, look, my eyes have gotten a little bit worse in my old age. Look at this font on that back label. It is really hard to read.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's like it kind of blends into it, like
it's the coloration that really does it for you, because it's got like that cream background, but then like a light red font.
Yeah,
it's not ideal.
It's not ideal. It's it stylistically works. You need a really bright light, and I don't have one in our recording session. Because we don't like film things. I mean, you polish that off. So what do you think?
It's good. I like it less the more I drink it.
Oh.
But it's not bad. I mean, I think it has a slight problem with the balance of the flavors. It's certainly more than a little sweet. I don't mind a sweet beer, but that's definitely sweet. The cherry you can definitely taste. The vanilla you can definitely taste.
Yep.
The bourbon mixed with it gives the slightest hint of like cough medicine.
Totally get that. I mean, it's do you remember the thing that we shall not talk about? the unfiltered buckwheat honey bochet that I made that was like a cherry bochet.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of that, but sweeter.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that wasn't terrible. It wasn't great though.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason it's the mead that shall not be named. But I need to sip on this a little bit more. I think I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit before I give a different opinion than yours.
I mean, it's definitely good. Like, if I got served this, I would drink it, no problem. I might not order a second one, but I would drink it, no problem. If I had to critique it, I actually think it'd probably be better in just a regular oak barrel and not a bourbon barrel. I think it is that little hint of bourbon that kind of pushes it from being like a cherry vanilla cream soda type of deal into, there's that little something that kind of feels medicinal.
So actually, for me, I think it's the fact that it's a wheat ale makes it like that. Yeah, I think this would have been better as like a fruit beer instead of
like I can see that.
A wheat ale, which, I mean, they're very close, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so like I said, I want it to warm up a little bit because I'm going to see if that changes some of the flavors in it and stuff like that. Revisit it a little bit later in the podcast. But right now, my initial impressions, it's a good beer. It does kind of taste like cough syrup. Like everything that you said is 100% accurate. They've now nailed the flavors, things like that. I kind of don't really get the bourbon in it. It's like just barely there.
Yeah.
And I think if they had aged it in oak barrels, I think if they'd used like a different, like instead of an ale base, they made like a wheat beer or something like that. Something that where the cherry can really like play and the flavor of the beer itself like kind of goes away. I guess I want that more in this.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I mean, if you took those cherry and vanilla flavors and you put them into something like a cider instead, we would probably be saying this is one of the best ciders we ever had.
Yeah, exactly. And if it had a little bit of a bourbon, flavor to it, it'd be so good. But for me, like the buttery notes and everything that's in the bourbon just kind of went away.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Well, it's a very powerful cherry. Like,
right.
Nobody could taste that and say that wasn't fruit.
Right.
There might be people out there who couldn't identify that as cherry versus like some other kind of like berry, like one of those deep fruits. But everyone would be like, oh yeah, this is sweet, this is fruity. There you go.
And this is a very summer beer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, so, what are we going to be talking about for our first thing? We're going to be talking about video game
Why not?
and consoles and things like that. So like big fans of the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us, we have our own ones. I use mine all the time. That's like my
Oh yeah.
primary way of playing Brotato.
Mm-hmm.
I have three like retro game emulation consoles that I've gotten. They're all from Anbernic. There's the RG Cube, which is a square aspect ratio Android based, um, you know, emulation machine, Android gaming machine. The 40XXH, which is a horizontal 4-inch screen using the same chip as the Anbernic RG 35XX that I had and that we had talked about last year. This kind of the same performance level as like you know a Miu Mini Plus. Basically it can play up to like PlayStation, N64, Nintendo DS type games like that. Even though I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know that I'd play Nintendo DS on it. I got a 3DS. I can play Nintendo
Yeah, that's true.
DS on my 3DS. But so we're looking at these things, and like the RG Cube is like $150. I'll look up the exact price of it, here in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The 40XXH is like 65, $70, and the 35XXH is less. And though if you got them on like Amazon instead of directly from Anbernic, they'll be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be somewhere around that price.
Yeah.
Maybe $10 or $15 more on Amazon. So really, I know what my opinion is on these, and I've just been babbling on about them like since you started playing them. But given what you have and know and everything like that,
Yeah.
So first of all, do you prefer a form factor that's like this, which is a vertical handheld, or a horizontal form factor more?
I prefer horizontal, but I think like the last time we were kind of reviewing at the Mii's, I do like that form factor as well.
Right.
It's not bad. It's not like there's a strong preference one way or the other. But especially as you start getting into, relatively newer games, when you're talking about retro games, where the consoles have switched to sticks, it's nice having that like more familiar controller format of like one stick up high, one stick down low type of deal.
Yeah. I agreed. Or like both sticks down low if you're a PlayStation person, kind of deal. Yeah. So I like both. If I'm just doing like one-handed console gaming, especially like old RPGs and stuff like that, I will prefer my Miu Mini. I like that form factor. It's kind of nice. I don't really need the trigger buttons so much on the back. So like it's a nice form factor for just holding in one hand. And I've got big old meaty man hands, so it's kind of like that. Now, of the three that we have today, one is a square aspect ratio. I think it's 3:3 or 3:2 or something like that. But it's a more square aspect ratio. What do you prefer, that, or do you prefer the more 16:9 type? Well, it's not 16:9. It's like 4:6, but like the Game Boy.
I'm not sure I have much preference there. Granted, I haven't played a lot of games on it, so maybe like if I did, I would have formed an opinion. But from all the ones I've played, all the screens felt fairly comparable in terms of aspect ratio.
So for me, the difference with like the RG Cube, which is the one that has the square aspect ratio, it feels better for games that are like NES games and Super NES. Like the integer scaling that you can put on there makes it like really nice. You almost don't have to use integer scaling for those things. And the small amount of bars that I get on the top and the bottom for like PlayStation games is nice too.
Yeah.
The issue I have with anything, so that can play PS2, things like that. Things that started getting like a different aspect ratio as time went on.
Yeah.
So you get more black bars on the top and bottom. And while that doesn't perfectly work, I mean, it looks square on a TV set when you put it on a square aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Like you can see the bigger problems there, the having the bezels, you know, on the outside. So that really is my only problem with something like that. I prefer something like the Steam Deck or something like that to play those other games, because I can put bezels on, and I'll have like little black bars on the side instead of on the top and bottom. But the screen's bigger, the text generally on the games that you play is more clear on a bigger screen.
Yeah, exactly. When you've got such a big screen like that, when you start slicing pieces of it off, it's not as noticeable.
Right. But on these, it's very noticeable. And so, like, I was playing Artonlico, it's an old RPG. It's about like AIs and things like that taking over this like city of music.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like you go on an adventure to like save the city that's floating in the sky. And it's more complex than that, so I'm not giving it like a great
yeah, it's no worries.
But the RG Cube, it's so like on the Steam Deck when I'm playing it, it's like really nice, you know, bright big, you know, letters, stuff like that. On the RG Cube, it's so small, it's really hard for me in my old man eyes, as we found out earlier, to read things and like see them and stuff like that. It can just be a difficult thing. So that said, that's my like take on the aspect ratio and the screen size and everything like that. Now, if you had to choose one of the three that was there, based on its operating system, which one would you choose?
Based on the operating system, I might give that to the Cube for that second view you showed me with the front end. That was pretty slick, and I liked that kind of section to it. I forget which one it was. It might have been this one. As I look at the label, it was the RG. Just the RG Cube. This is the one I was looking at. The RG40XX?
Yeah. H.
Yeah. That one was also pretty slick. I know you've got some custom firmware on that, but that was a nice little menu. Because I liked that it showed, like, these iconic characters as you went over, like, each one. Because, you know, I know what games were on Nintendo versus Super Nintendo versus whatever. But, like, it's so cool to see, like, oh, yeah, boom, that's a Super Nintendo game.
Right.
That's a Nintendo game, you know.
This is Final Fantasy Tactics. That's like the thing, you know. And this is, you know, Super Mario, and that's, you know, and it gives you the box art and everything like that.
Yeah,
now, all three of them will do something like that, where it'll give you the box art and everything. I do prefer Emulation Station to the front end that Anbernic has on the RG Cube. I mean, it's a nice front end on the RG Cube too. But if I was going to, I probably would use either Launchbox or one of the other front. There's like 4 or 5 of them now that you can do basically the same thing, and they look better. If you give it to me, I'll show you the RG Cube. If you give me the RG Cube, I'll show you one of the other front ends I haven't installed. But yeah, so I feel like, because I like to tinker, the RG Cube is the better option for me when it comes to that. I don't know that I necessarily love the higher cost, because it's almost twice as much as the other two.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I mean, there is certainly a cost difference between the two. But out of all the ones that I think I've played over here, the RG Cube is the first one I think you could hand me and say, hey, did you hear, you know, X game company just released a new, like, handheld for retro games. Like, it's got a very good build quality. It is that kind of sleek, modern approach to it where, like, I'm serious. I mean, if you had handed me that and said, like, oh, hey, did you hear Sony just released the PS Mini or something, and it can play PS1 and PS2 games, and hand it to me and be like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah,
There would have been no question. There would have been no like, "Oh, this feels a little cheap."
yeah.
You know?
This one definitely is a high, and that's one of the nice things about it. It's high quality, and I do love the triggers on here.
Oh yeah, they're great.
They're nice. The joysticks are nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong. I don't have Daigisho installed in here, but it'll take it like 2 minutes to install.
Yeah.
And then I'll show it to you, or it probably takes even less time than that. But Daigisho or Launchbox would be my preferred way of doing the front end because it's closer to Emulation Station.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that kind of look, and it gives you the same sort of thing where it gives you the background art and everything like that. Daigisho is so Launchbox is like they really control that, and Daigisho is like a free, like open source front end sort of deal. So that would be my preferred front end on these sorts of things. Let's see, what else did I have to ask for you? Oh, okay. The custom firmware between these two, because they run the same stock firmware.
Yeah.
You preferred the Newly, the one that was like the Emulation Station front end and everything like that. I mean, they basically have like all the same features at this point between the two front ends. And Newly does over-the-air updates, so once you've installed it, you don't have to install it anymore and stuff like that. I'm probably going to put Newly on the 35XX.
I could definitely see it.
And you can put it on all three of them, like because the All-Winter chip that's in here, all three of them run the same chip. So it's just the aspect ratio that's different, and a couple other like things on the inside. So let's see. All right. Me download a few platforms here, and then you'll see what it looks like. I'll just get like GameCube, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, all the things. Maybe a few PlayStations, Nintendo, DS, NES, Switch, Wii U. It's crazy to think that so many, I mean, even like up to like the PS Vita, all just kind of works on Android stuff. So by default, you just hit the trigger button and it just goes through like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the same. It's basically the same as this one. It uses the same sort of like front end thing. I prefer that to the one that they have by default on the RG Cube, because that's like the Anbernic thing that they do. That all theirs is like kind of the same as that, but that's not my preference.
No, I feel you. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
Go look up images for it on Google.
Yeah, Daigisho. I'll put a link in the show notes so that you can find it. It looks nice. It's hard to do visual stuff. So for me, I think if I was going to buy one of these, I would not probably. So I wouldn't treat this as like I would treat these as like a class of emulation devices. I like the Game Boy Advance form factor. I like having triggers on mine and stuff like that. So I would probably get the 40XXH and have that to play everything up to like PlayStation.
Yeah.
And that would be something that I could like do Portmaster, Stardew Valley, like games like that whenever I want to like travel, if I didn't want to install it on my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
My Steam Deck is going to be for anything that's higher than that. You know, that's just the way it is. I like these like smaller handhelds though. So like, but I've got an Odin 2. You've seen the Odin 2.
Yeah.
You've played with the Odin 2, right? The Odin 2, it'll do up to Switch, Nintendo Switch. So in a world like that where it's like $100 more, and I know like that's a luxury place, right? Like some people aren't going to sit here and be like, well, you know, it's just $100 more.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But for $100 more, the performance that I get out of my Odin 2 is just blows the RG Cube out of the water. I can play everything that it can play. It's at the aspect ratio I want. I can set up the same bezels on it. It's Android, all that stuff. The only thing, so like, it's got that nice aspect ratio. So if I want to play older games at a square aspect ratio, I've got that ability.
Yep.
And that's kind of cool. So I think it depends on the game that I would play as to which one I would prefer.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to choose only one to buy, which would it be? Now, if you had to choose only one to buy, you said you'd do the RG Cube, right?
Yeah, if we're talking like no other devices in play, pick one of these three we're talking about.
Right.
It would definitely be the RG Cube.
I think if it was me, I would do the RG40XXH.
Mm-hmm.
If I could not have any, like I can't have a PS Vita, I can't have a PSP, I can't have a Miu Mini, I can't have any of those like devices. I think if that's the case, the 40XXH, because it's just the right size for me to enjoy it. It has the right style of triggers that I like on it for me to be able to do like hotkeys and stuff with, and any game that I want to play on it that would use triggers or something like that. It's got linear triggers instead of clicky triggers. So so that would be my choice.
Yeah, I can definitely see that argument. It's definitely my runner-up. It's a pretty close match. I'm just a sucker for good build quality.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that gives me the other one. It feels so good to hold and play with for a little bit.
It does. It has nice grips on it and everything like that. It is really nice. All right, so coming back to the beer. Not that I'm killing the conversation about. If you're looking for a retro handheld and you don't want to get a Miu Mini for some reason, or the original RG35XX Plus, and you want something that's more oriented, you have like $150. You won't go wrong getting a Retroid Pocket, 4, Retroid Pocket 5, whatever that comes out, because that's like the next thing that comes out, or an RG Cube. Like, essentially, they're both really nice devices. But if you're looking to spend less money, it's hard to like. Newly on the 40XXH is awesome. So as a matter of fact, anything that Newly supports going forward, I'll be putting that on it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Because I like that. I like Garlic OS too. Garlic and Onion OS, both really great Linux builds that for so like Newly's kind of up there with those two for me. Anyways, back to the beer. It's warmed up a little bit. Let's see what it tastes like.
There you go.
I am not disappointed with how it's evolved once it's warmer. If I was going to get this beer, I would probably leave it out for like, so it like warmed up to like 45, 46 degrees instead of being, fresh from the freezer at like 42, 40, or fresh from the refrigerator, not the freezer. I don't know why I said freezer. Anyways, 50 degrees, something like that, 50, 55. This beer being about that warm would be nice because it still tastes like cough syrup a bit, but the tart cherry comes out.
Okay.
And so that was kind of hidden in there, and letting it just set on my tongue as I'm talking and having the air rush over it and everything like that, I'm getting more of that aftertaste. There's even a little bit of that buttery bourbon taste in there, and that was hidden when it was really cold.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to try some,
sure, pour me a little bit.
Not to leave dead air while we're just pouring stuff, but there we go. See what you think.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It doesn't feel as sweet.
Yeah.
When it's not as cold, because you're right, a little bit more of that tartness comes out.
Yeah.
But the cough syrupiness is definitely still there.
Right. I think I'm going to take that back. It doesn't taste like cough syrup necessarily. The reason I think I associate it with that is because it's liquid. It really tastes like one of those Luden's cherry, like
a cough drop.
Cough drop things. Yeah. It's got that like medicated flavor, but they're so sweet. Like Robitussin and cherry cough syrup and stuff like that is not nearly as sweet as this.
No, it's not. I'm thinking of, and you may have not got a chance to taste it in a really long time. I got reintroduced to it with a young child. Is they'll put basically medicine in this like sweet candy flavor, so kids won't immediately reject it. Like, and it is incredibly sweet. Like, it's even sticky. It's so sugary. To like, if it's a bad tasting medicine, an adult will push through it. A child will just spit it up every single time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it is. For me, it is still that very like, that's what they mix like medications in type of flavor to it.
All right. So I promised you a funny story, and like you telling me that story, like kind of reminded me of my story. So all right, we went to Wegmans. My youngest DJ was there with us, and that's when I saw these beers. And I like walk over and I'm like, oh, those look so cool. I love this. Like I'm definitely going to get one, and like this would be great to talk about on the podcast. It's a limited run and all this other stuff, right? And there's a sign, like a thing, and it's a standing display type deal.
Yeah.
And DJ's like going over there and like posing with it and stuff like that, and then Venus starts like taking pictures, and like having a good time, right? And there's these two employees that are there, and DJ like picks up the display because it's like a beer bottle, and
pretends to drink it.
Pretends like she's drinking it, and they're like, ma'am, please, like, have your child controlled.
Dang.
And they were like, you can't take that away, I mean, they weren't being like mean or anything like that. They were just like, we did so much, like I could see it on their face. They're like, we did so much work to make that look perfect, and you're over here ruining it.
Yeah, and then probably we have to spend time every single day fixing it.
Yes, because somebody does something stupid like that. But they good kid did put it back exactly the way it was. Didn't knock things over or mess things up, and apologized. But it was a really funny moment. Anyways, custom firmware is a must, or a custom front end for your devices is a must if you're going to get one of these, for sure. Because it's not quite like the Steam Deck. Although, did you ever put Emulation Station on your Steam Deck?
No, I don't think so.
That makes it very much like Newly, or like one of those other things where you you've got the Steam front end, right? Steam Big Picture. And then, like, if you want to go into Emulation Station, you just, like, click on it. It'll take you into Emulation Station, and you're able to, basically select your stuff from there. And it's all, like, set up and everything for you. Makes it pretty good. All right. So, that's all I had to say about that. You got anything else you want to say?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Then this is Season 7, Episode 11 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's slated to come out on September 9th, 2024. And thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.